Hi, my name is Miriam Omura, and I'm a visual artist based in Birmingham, Alabama. Primarily, I work in textiles, but I do expand that to other mediums as well. When I think about memory, I think about the way it physically works in your body and your brain. Is the synapses are connecting, and they're connecting an image or a feeling or sensation that you've experienced already, and they layer and build upon each other. Um, so in that way, they're constantly changing. And that's why I consider them a translation um, instead of a record or a recording. So I think in my work, I'm looking at the distortions in my weaving process as that blurring, that layering. So from a distance, you see the work more clearly. And then as you move forward towards the work, you actually realize that it's much more fragmented and you don't fully see a person or an image. It's broken or pixelated. Yes, so this piece is not a woven piece, but it's fabric, and it from a distance you can start to see the face, and in this case it's tilted sideways. But as you get closer, it just becomes these squares of fabric, and it's harder to see the image, and you start getting sucked into what types of fabrics they are. Maybe there's a pattern on the fabric, but when you step back, and for these larger pieces, definitely the distance, you see the image, and it's kind of like aha moment. And or if you take a picture with your phone, you see the image versus what you see with your eyes. That translation, that shift happens. So there's a lot of planning that goes into my work, with the distortion, but there's also a lot of unknowns. So whether it's weaving or these kind of quilt portraits that aren't really quilts, but these pixelated portraits, they they don't necessarily come out the way I imagine them to. There's elements that shift, that I don't have control, even though I do a lot of planning for the pieces. There's a lot of design and layout that I do before I start the pieces. Those and those make the image sometimes unrecognizable to people as a person that's in the image, or make them recognizable to the person. So that's, yeah, I would say that's how that plays in. So it's this kind of balance of control and uncertainty within the work. Yes, so that process, I weave a cloth, normally plain white cloth, and then I dye paint the image onto the cloth. I always work lighter to darker. That way I can tighten in the image with the darker colors and be more loose with the lights. Then I unweave the whole cloth, and then I will reweave the cloth. And in that unweaving and reweaving, the threads twist, they stretch, they shift. And if you look at that piece, it loops around to make a full face, but it's one piece of long cloth. And so one side of the face is more distorted than the other side. And that is because as you move further down in weaving, reweaving, the very small slight shift of the threads magnifies over time. It increases. So that small, if it's a millimeter, further down it's 2 millimeters to 3 millimeters. And over time that extends and exaggerates. I was able to figure out that it took me over 6 months to make that piece, from starting the initial weaving process to taking it off the loom. There's the design and planning before that that I'm not counting, and then maybe the finishing of the work. So these pieces take me a long time. I don't, it's not something that's done quickly. And that's not just working on it periodically. That's constant, like working on the piece. It's a slow process. I think so. I find it gives me lots of time to contemplate over, because I mostly do portraiture. It gives me a lot of time to contemplate over the person that I'm painting, piecing together, weaving together, and to think about their story, and who they are, what I know about them, what I don't know about them. So there's a level of meditation or just presence with the work, because it's not quick. Yeah, so that has changed over the years. When I first started kind of looking at portraiture, I was looking at family members, and working from images of family members, and looking at their stories. Then it started, and also their stories in relation to me. Then it started shifting to portraits of strangers from found photographs, and knowing nothing about them. Maybe there's a name on the back of the picture, or there's an age. But working with unknown persons that way. And then since then, that has shifted to looking at missing and unidentified persons and trying to tell their stories, which are often very fragmented, often very distorted from who they are, because you only get a partial sense of their life or their story that's they're not able to tell. So that's kind of been the trajectory of the subjects that I select. So that's an interesting one, because I think for a lot of people, they don't necessarily realize that I'm an immigrant. I've lived here for 35 years at this point. And even though I've lived here for 35 years, there's cultural memory gaps are big, because they're handed down to you through generations, and you don't realize how much is culturally is handed down through the generations. And if you don't have those generations that have that cultural ties or cultural connection to a place, to a country, to a region, you're missing a lot. And you're always in a process of trying to translate and understand what is going on around you. So oftentimes I think I find I'm in a situation where people assume I know culturally what's expected of me, or that I understand things, but sometimes I'm guessing at them, or I'm learning about them afterwards. And I also see that within the US, there's regions of the US that are so different, and there's a cultural history and cultural connection to those places from the people that have been there for a few generations. So yeah, I think that plays in, and I think sometimes my working on the different people, the portraits of people, is my entrance into US culture and understanding parts of the culture that I don't understand, because I'm spending time researching what different things mean. So it is, yeah, that's a very interesting question, but I think it is quite relevant to my work, though I hadn't really considered it to be before. Gosh, that's probably one of the hardest questions to be asked. I'm not sure, because I don't know. Yeah, I just don't know what people want to know, or again, I'm probably assuming things that people understand about my work that they don't, just as I'm not understanding a lot of cultural things in the US that people assume I understand. Maybe just that it comes from my heart. My work is definitely very much a part of me. Um, it's more than an image when I create something. It's more than an object when I create something. It's including me within the work, simply because of all the processes, the different processes I use, especially with weaving or with fabric pieced works. I'm touching every piece of cloth, every single thread. It passes through my hands, my fingers, which in turn means that the oils for my hands are within the work. So it's not only just a sense of emotionally I'm part of my work, but physically I'm leaving traces of myself within the work, whether it's oils or, even hair falls and within woven cloth, there may be a hair in there that falls in and gets woven in just accidentally.